Salaam Alaikum. Mr. Moderator, our distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, our friends and our enemies.
Bismillah, Bismillah, wa salatu wa salam, Rasulullah wa ba'd. Right. So to begin, I think the topic, even listening to the debate in itself, is a little bit cart before the horse, because the first thing we got to do is we got to define racism first, right? So what is racism? And the vast majority of people, especially in our times, they don't know what it is. They don't understand it. They don't know where it came from. They say basically what they think it is or what is purported for it to be in terms of feelings or cognitive bias or things of this nature, right? And racism has nothing to do with any of that. Before the 1400s, there was no such thing called race or racism, right? There was no such thing called race or racism. This is a social construct that really began in the mid 1400s. And what was going on during this time is that Europe was in big trouble, okay? They were basically, suffering from poverty, famine. They had all kinds of wars, all kind of stuff, right? And they started hearing about this gold that was going on in Africa, so they started making expeditions to Africa. And in the mid, I want to say, 1450, I think it's 1456, if I'm not mistaken, 1456, 1455, somewhere around this time, 1450s, right? There is a man, his name is Henry the Navigator, and he's an explorer. He explored for the Portuguese. They were the first ones to kind of go out there. And he brought back about 16 Africans that were gifted to him from Africa to Portugal, okay? And the Pope at this time, the Pope's name at this time, his name was a man called Pope Innocent the Eighth. Again, I think I talked about this last time. Okay, and Pope Innocent.
Did you say Feachaz? You said gifted. You mean they'll give it as slaves?
Yeah, that is correct. Because slavery before the devilish chattel slavery that came out of Europe, there was no such thing as race, as I mentioned before. At these times, there was nations, there were tribes, and there were religions. So slavery was an institution that is very, very, very old, right? Even long before this devilish European chattel slavery. But how you became a slave previously before that is either you were captured like a prisoner of war, or you indentured yourself into slavery, like you volunteered for slavery, or you were basically a some sort of criminal, and then you were put into slavery. This was what slavery was before this.
Country gave this Portuguese guy?
There were no countries back then. You're talking about the West African region, right? So we're talking about this is like the Mali, the Kingdom of Mali. You can say at this time, you can say the region around Ghana, Nigeria. These type of regions. Okay.
So they had slaves, and they gave them some slaves.
Yes, because they had slavery was just a normal thing, right? So slavery in these times was just a typical normal thing. It wasn't seen as something that we see it today because of what happened in Europe, right? So slaves had rights, slaves could own things, slaves could these type of things, right? So they gifted them about 16 black slaves. They went up to Europe, and then Pope Innocent, he was the first one that said, you know what, these black folk are, they're such a good idea. Let's just keep them. Let's turn black people into slaves, right? Because he could see very clear that, that these people are racially distinct from the Portuguese out there in Europe or whatnot, right? So he was the first one to kind of come up with the idea of enslaving black people just because of their black, right? Fast forward a few years, and then Christopher Columbus is making his expeditions to the Western world. And like I said, Europe is in turmoil, right? They're in big trouble, right? And Columbus, he discovers what he calls the New World, and he sees that these lands are very sparsely populated with indigenous population, right? Like they're not very heavily populated, and there's an opportunity here to bring the people from the Europe into these lands to basically cultivate the land and build land up and gather wealth, because they're looking for wealth. This is where around this time, between this time and what was going on in Spain. All of these things were happening around this time. The Spanish Inquisition was happening around this time. You had the pure blood laws in Spain and whatnot, essentially kicking out the Muslims and the Jews out of Europe. And at this time, the pure blood laws basically stated that if your paternal and maternal grandmother and paternal and maternal grandfathers were pure blood, like white, for lack of better words, and the Christian, then you would get the benefit of the rights, the status, and these type of things, right, during this time, right? So all this is kind of melding in together. So the word race was actually invented in Spain. A race meaning araza. Araza meaning to race for what? The race for wealth, resources, land, because this is what was happening at this time. And 7 or 8 countries that were involved in this race for wealth, resources, land, gold, all this kind of stuff. There was, of course, Portugal, as we mentioned. There was Spain, as we mentioned, Britain, France, Germany, Dutch were involved, and the Italians. And there's one more that I can't remember, right? But these were the people that were going out for the race for wealth, gold, and all this kind of stuff, okay? And this race necessitated that they go into Africa, capture these free Black folks, bring them into these new lands, use the Black Africans as, chattel. This is where the chattel slavery basically essentially started, right? And have them into perpetual slavery. And during the mid-1800s, when the race for the resources ended, all they did is they put a suffix at the end of race and said racism. So what is racism now? Racism is an affair between Black people and white people, where white people control all the wealth, land, resources, and the human capital and labor of Black people, where Black people own nothing. That's what racism is. That's where we start seeing the first usage of the word race in that context. The context of the white race being superior over the Black race. You cannot mention racism without mentioning white supremacy. And that's why I said the debate in itself is kind of cart before the horse, because being pro-Black, you cannot be pro-Black and racist. This is a kind of a contradiction of terms. Racism, as as initially purported throughout history, has always been this affair between people who classified themselves as white over people who classified themselves as Black. That's all it has ever been, and that's all it will be. You get it? Go ahead.
I'll be honest with you. Of course, I'm gonna have to fact check your history.
Yeah, no worries. Look it up.
I'm gonna have to fact check your history claims.
Of course.
Look deeper into the relationship between
no problem.
How the whole slave trade, because you mentioned them. Henry going
out. By the way, that's the summarized version, because I know we don't have a lot of time, right? So go ahead.
Absolutely, and I'm actually glad you did that, because now it forces me to go out there and do more research and look into it and find out if that's really the case or not. Because as far as I understand it, and JM, you can
yeah, I'm just gonna quickly try and make
because the thing is, at first, as I understand it, at first it started off as trading. So the white men would go out there and they would trade, and Black kings would give them slaves, and they'll it was a trading relationship that soon devolved into the white men thought, once they had the powder, once they had the gun, they thought, we could actually take over. Why don't we turn this into a business type of thing? But it started off as so in a sense, slave exchange was already there. It had already existed during the trading stages before the white men decided to
slavery in itself is very, very, very old and ancient. Even it's mentioned even in the Bible itself, where you have the people of the children of Israel who are enslaved by Pharaoh. Okay, the word slave, it comes from the root word from Slav, from Slavania, right? Because those people in Europe, those Slavs, they were the labor class of Europe, and so that name, the actual etymology of the word slave comes from them. That's how old slavery was, right? So slavery is not something that is unusual or are not unique. It's not unique in terms of Europeans over Black people. What is unique is chattel slavery, saying that somebody does not have the right to own wealth, does not have the right to property, does not have the right even to their own autonomy of their own bodies and the bodies of their own children. They do not own their own children. This is the first time in history that has ever happened was in chattel slavery, which came out of Europe, the transatlantic slave trade. And this is why, Octavio, that your name is Octavio, okay? This is why we are speaking English today, because our forefathers were taken out of Africa, sold as slaves without any autonomy over their bodies, over their religion, over their children, right? And because of that, we developed the attitudes that we were given by our slave masters. You get me? So to jump the gun and go directly towards pro-Black racists and just hop, skip, and jump right over the white supremacists is definitely cart over before the horse. It is who are these pro-Blacks that are running into Europe somewhere, kidnapping, white women and children, all kind of stuff, and telling them that we are the superior race, and we are going to incrementally and systematically indoctrinate not just you, but your children and your grandchildren to worship our lily white Jesus and all kinds of stuff. Who is doing this? Is this Black folk? It's not Black folk doing this. Just the other day, you're out there in Europe, you had riots in Britain. What were the riots in Britain from? Where was the Black people rioting in Britain against other Muslims? Or is it the typical attitude of the white supremacists that are in Britain rioting, and not just rioting, but accusing the innocent Muslim community who had nothing to do with what were they rioting about, of committing crimes? What's happening in Ireland right now today? Why do you have so much far right sentiment all over Europe, all over these white Western countries? Why is it all these far right movements coming into existence right now and being backed by rich colonial white supremacist money, apartheid money, slavery money? Calling all of this sentiment is being backed by this money. It's because of the black power movement, or it's because of the Black Lives Matter. Whatever. No, we ain't got nothing to do with that, right?
But this is so. In terms of the debate, there was actually, I don't know how much of it you saw, but there was. I started off by kind of highlighting the fact as to why we have Black liberation movements such as. So there was, I think I even went back to the 15th century and I highlighted this particular Catholic friar, I think is what he is, who was perpetuating the myth of the curse of Ham, which, as we know, was a justification for a lot of Christian superpowers and even within the Christian faith to justify slavery.
Direct from the top. It didn't just come out of nowhere. This came direct from the popes. The very, very upper echelon, the popes, the kings, you name it, they signed off on this. Right? There was no racial curse of Ham before the papacy brought it into existence.
Shouts to Catholicism.
Go ahead.
Could you just make my point? I'm going to let this point. I'm going to let you guys go because I'm going to get to bed. But just in terms of what the brother was saying as to why there's this far right movement in Europe, I don't know if you're aware of this great replacement theory, which is
this is why sorry to cut you off there, brother, but even Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, way back in the 70s, late 60s, early 60s, she wrote this in a book in writing. She wrote this. Right? She was talking about great replacing theory before great replacement theory was great replacement theory, right? She called it, she said it was the fear of white genetic annihilation. And the way that she described it, she said the prevention of white genetic annihilation is pursued through all means, including chemical, biological, physical, and white genetic annihilation in of itself is the survival mechanism that white people use in order to keep the prop up white supremacy, because they see themselves as their only way to survive is to make sure that they call the numbers of the other darkest skinned people of the earth. For instance, Chris Wilson was writing this in the 60s, 70s. She was giving interviews about this in the 80s. And now here they are openly talking about great replacement theory in 2025. Openly. Go ahead.
In that book you mentioned, the ISIS Papers is a very good book.
The ISIS Papers. Yeah, I have that book right here in my house. I read the whole thing.
But there's a French author that he wrote that book, and that is the reason why the likes of Steve
Are you talking
Bannon
about Frantz
and all
Fanon?
these guys. Yeah, no,
I have his book here too. I said, I'm not joking about
Steve Bannon.
Steve Bannon. Oh, that's the white guy here in the States.
Yeah, so he's also there's a lot of these guys pushing this idea of this great replacement theory. But just want to make this point that the reason why you have, I mean, again, the principles of the great replacement theory are racist and they go against the laws of Europe. Most countries in Europe have anti-discriminatory laws, yet we still have people advocating against the law. Just going back to this whole idea of the law and how you don't need to have anything apart from the law. If we didn't have advocacy groups or even other parts of law enforcement and monitoring this type of behavior, then you would have open anti-Muslim aggression throughout Europe. The law is not going to stop this. Going back to Table's point about the law is not going to stop Muslims being under attack in these countries. So that's why, just rounding it up, is why it's so important to have advocacy groups and people that will speak up on behalf of their communities. Because if you don't have that, the law is not enough to protect you. And on that, guys, I'm going to listen in, but I'm going to say goodnight. But I'm going to listen in. Otavio, we speak soon, bro.
Bro, love family, man. Love, brother. Appreciate it, man. You lost that one, but it's all right, brother.
Oh, whatever, man.
So I just wanted to...
brother, you know me. I'm not here necessarily to debate. I don't believe in debating so much. I think I said that last time as well, right? I'm just here to have a conversation with my people, right? Because I love my people, right? I have a lot of love for my people. Right. And I have a lot of concern for my people. Right. Which is one of the reasons why I'm pro-Black. Pro-Black is a spectrum. It's not it's not a monolith. Right. There are many people who call themselves pro-Black, and they're the most destructive forces in the Black community. All right. And, but pro-Black is not an old thing. Right. It's not a new thing. It's a very old thing, rather. It goes even way, way back to Marcus Garvey times, who was the first person to turn the phrase Pan-African, right? So from that, that's where the pro-Black movement really starts with Marcus Garvey, with even you can say Elijah Muhammad, these type of people, right? It's not a new thing, right?
I don't think it's this, bro. I don't think it. I think the term pro-Black has been used to hijack Black movements that fought against racism. I think this term pro-Black, because, bro, I'll be honest with you, I need to know. Okay, you're telling me this is where it came from and blah blah blah. But the thing is, I've tried to do some research on it without people theorizing, without people adding their own little interpretations to history. We don't actually have a clear timeline of when this pro-Black institution was created, when it became official. We don't have a manifesto. We don't have nothing. All we have, I'll be honest with you, bro, is people identifying themselves as pro-Black.
Well, that's exactly what it is. Right? That is exactly what it is. People identify themselves as pro-Black. And you go ahead.
Let me just get Hassan is we trying to say something for me.
Go ahead.
So I was just going to ask the Feachaz.
Yeah.
Can you be pro-Black and Muslim?
Yeah, of course. Are you kidding me? As a matter of fact, it's an obligation. Are you kidding me right now? Look at are you Muslim or Christian or Jewish or what
Muslim,
are you? You're Muslim? Okay.
You become a Christian soon.
Never.
Now, we hope not. Never. You actually, Octavia, you're more likely to become Muslim. We pray that Allah guides you to Islam. I mean, alhamdulillah, right? I mean, I think you're a good-hearted guy. You know what I mean? But yeah, you seem like a nice guy. You don't seem like these other people out here who are just kind of seeking clouts or whatever, right? But
I appreciate that, bro. I appreciate that. But so you can become Muslim and pro-Black?
Yeah, of course. You kidding me?
A contradiction.
How is that a contradiction? When the Prophet ﷺ, right? Rather, Allah says in the Quran that we sent prophets and messengers to every nation, right? The Prophet sallallahu, right? There's an entire surah in the Quran. It's called Surah Al-Quraysh, Li'ilafi Quraysh, for the protection of Quraysh. You think the Prophet sallallahu didn't love his people? Of course he loved his people. Even Allah mentions in the Quran that your love for your people will cause you grief and all this kind of stuff, because he was concerned about them in the hellfire. And you're talking about prophets and messengers who knew the language of the people, who knew the culture of the people, right? Who understood the folkways and mores of the people. Here we are, Black people, okay? We were robbed of our names, robbed of our language, robbed of our roots, robbed of our folkways, our moreways. We lost our roots, our culture, our God, and some of us, by the way we act, we even lost our minds. And you mean to tell me I can't be pro my people? Rather, it's obligatory, right? When you are calling the people to Allah, or when you're calling the people to the truth, the first people you're going to call is your family first, your neighbors first, and then your general people.
This is the thing. I can imagine. Sorry, Octavio. I can imagine.
Sorry, Hassan. I disagree with you on the Feachaz, but go ahead, Hassan. I want to hear from you.
I'm sure you're going to go into detail on how much you disagree, but I can imagine a North African who has a similar story of how his people were somehow taken as slaves by the Muslims in the 900s or the 1000s, because the Muslims were enslaving Europeans before the Europeans were enslaving the Africans. Not that it's Islamic, but it did happen. And I'm sure they would have said we've lost our traditional.
No, because they didn't. They didn't.
Well, they're Muslims. They were
that was not chattel slavery. That was not chattel slavery.
Most likely they were Catholics.
That wasn't chattel. There was the slavery that we were talking about just a minute ago. All right, it wasn't chattel slavery.
So is the enslavement of the Muslim pirates from Italy and Spain and Portugal more preferable than the vice versa?
Are you talking about the Barbary slave trade?
Yes.
The Barbary slave trade was a reaction to what was happening in Europe at that time.
The Muslim conquest of Europe and then the revolt.
Yes, that was a reaction, and a natural reaction to what was going on in Europe at that time. And even still, that slavery cannot be remotely compared to the devil slavery that was coming out of Europe, where you were kidnapping free people, you are selling their babies right in front of their mothers, right? And you don't even give them any rights whatsoever. And even writing that into law, you put it into law. Do you know who Dred Scott is? Okay, Dred Scott is the reason why you have birthright citizenship to this day. Dred Scott was a free Black slave in the U.S. and long story short, he was with his wife, and his wife was recaptured in a free state, recaptured and taken back into slavery. So he took his former slave master to the Supreme Court. And you know what the Supreme Court said? And they put this as a natural ruling to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said there are no rights that a Black man has that a white man is bound to respect. And that ruling effectively made all non-white people, particularly Black people, non-citizens. So after the Civil Rights War, how do we get these Black people to become citizens again? You know how you do it? You make an amendment to the Constitution and say that anybody who is born naturally in the United States is a citizen. That's why you have birthright citizenship.
Right, but then again, it just still doesn't change the fact that there were Muslims. Sorry, Octavio. There were people of Islamic background, because I don't want to say they're Muslims, because not what Muslims did, because they were often selling slaves for gunpowder and rum and what have you. But there were free European people and taken to North Africa as slaves, men, women, and children. And
yes, and what we are saying is that, was this the natural disposition of Islam, or was it a reaction to what the conquistadors and the inquisitors were doing in Europe at that time, with pure blood laws and all kind of stuff?
This, I would say, it's just the Muslim conquest and then the corruption and the collapse of those Muslim empires as time goes on.
No, because the Muslim empires were in full swing back then.
Well, we were kicked out of Europe.
No, yes, exactly. Yes, that's what that was.
Can I just ask a question?
Right? It doesn't justify it, but to say that Islam didn't promote that.
I don't.
You had some Muslims who were doing that as a reaction to what's going on in Europe. Was it wrong?
No,
Absolutely, it was wrong. But where are these fatwa? Where are these Muslim scholars during that time, right? Saying that, okay, you know what? Let's go kidnap these pasty white women and marry them and lighten our skin. Where were the scholars at this time? That was only happening in the Ottoman Empire, right? Yeah. And again, that was the slavery, the type of slavery that wasn't chattel slavery. You cannot compare that to chattel slavery at all. There is absolutely no comparison. Go ahead. Go ahead.
This Barbary slavery, which I'm very interested. Thanks for bringing it up. I'm going to look into it. Are you guys telling me that this slavery was better? That these what were these people treated with? What special rights did these people have that the chattel slavery did not provide? This is what I'm trying to, because you guys seem to be making a comparison about which slavery was better.
Okay.
No, that's a mute point anyway.
I'm not making that comparison. I'm just trying to say slavery occurred, evil occurred in the past. The idea that a pro-black movement can now be associated with Islam, or it can be associated with Islam, I'm just arguing against that. There are people who do wrong.
Based on what? Based on what? Go ahead.
What is exclusively? I can't imagine Islam being pro-black. Allah did not make. Allah's not black. The idea that justice can be attributed to one particular people against another, or preferred over one over the other. It's justice for all. For men, Islam is a justice and mercy to all peoples, men, women, and children. The reward and the objective is Islam, not racial equality, not anything else.
The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said to aid your brother, whether he's the oppressor or he's the oppressed. Correct? Did the Prophet sallallahu he say this?
Yes.
And so, what is the natural question after hearing this statement like this?
Okay, your Muslim brother, because
what is the natural question after hearing a statement like this?
Okay, and the question they asked is we know how to help the oppressed. How do we help the oppressor?
And what was his answer?
By stopping him oppressing.
Where is your work against white supremacy?
Well, promoting the deen. Where's my work as an individual? Or
yes, where is it?
Speaking the truth, it's promoting Islam.
That's your work against white supremacy? Against white supremacy specifically, promoting the truth and speaking against Islam?
Isn't that enough?
No, that is absolutely not enough, because the Prophet sallallahu, he himself, when he wanted to stop an evil, he stopped the exact specific evil in a very specific way. So now here you are, you want to say that Islam cannot be pro-black, right? Are you pro-Palestinian? You're not pro-Palestinian.
I don't care about Palestine. I'm pro-justice. I'm pro-stop.
You're not pro-Palestinian.
Can I respond, brother?
Go ahead.
I'm pro not killing innocent men and women and children. But
this is such a stretch. This is beyond stretch. Go ahead.
I appreciate you listening, brother. Thank you for the question. I'm anti the oppression and the murder of innocent men and women and children in Gaza and in the West Bank because of the whole illegal settlements and such. But in terms of supporting a Palestinian state, I'm not Palestinian. I don't care about borders.
Right. This is first of all, that's a stretch. But let's say, for example, that you are actually not stretching. Okay.
I'm stretching.
Let's just say, for example, this is this is so far fetched. Like, it's beyond far fetched what you just said right now. But okay, no problem. We're gonna take it at face value. Okay.
Ooh, I like this.
All right. Right. Let's say, for example, that you are actually not pro-Palestinian. Then what do you say about all of these pro-Palestinians, not just protesters, but politicians, activists, and they're saying they're pro-Palestinian? What do you say about that?
I would say do not follow the majority, but follow the truth, because the majority won't lead you to truth. You're stretching, bro. You're stretching. I know.
You're stretching. Yes. You know, you're stretching.
I haven't broken a limb.
Go ahead, Octavio. Go ahead.
I haven't broken a limb just yet.
Go ahead. That is so far-fetched. It's beyond far-fetched. But anyway, go ahead.
The reason I focus on that is because if I to quote your hadith, the believer is not stung by the same hole twice, meaning that we are capable of thinking and reflecting and coming to the precise conclusion of what the justice or what is good or what is precise or what produces the best results. What feels good isn't necessarily good. It feels good to march in the streets and say we are pro-Palestine and we're anti-Israel. But
I'm not for protest either, bro.
Sure.
I'm not somebody who supports protesting as a strategy, and I'm very open about that. You can check my videos about that on my channel. But I would be a curry chicken's butt, right? If I'm going to speak against the protesters before I speak against the Zionists. I'm going to be a curry chicken's butt before I say I'm pro everything before I say pro Palestine. Yes, I'm pro Palestine. Yes, I'm pro black, and yes, I'm anti injustice at the same time. Every problem has a specific solution. If your house is on fire, you don't say, "Well, I'm anti against fire to put out the."
No. I would go back to the hadith that says tie your camel, make dua and tie your camel. Right, meaning
that's not specific.
But
that's not specific. How do you fix the Palestinian problem without dealing with Palestinian issues? How do you do that?
I wouldn't focus on the national
stutter. It's okay. Stutter. Go ahead.
That's not right. That's not right. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Stop it. Go ahead.
Well, the first thing I would say is do not go on a military offensive against the United States' greatest child or their chosen child, right? The October 7th is a clear violation and beyond stupidity and look what it's achieved. Nothing. Take the best possible option. It seems like moving to Egypt or Jordan or Libya may be the best.
I'll be right back, guys. I'll be right back. Continue. I'm loving it.
The idea of I'm willing to die, not necessarily even fight for these national borders, is what's leading them down the path. But we're splitting hairs at this point. I think the idea that being pro-Muslim is an innovation. I see it as somebody looking at their faith and seeing it as being somewhat deficient in some way or the other. I don't think the Prophet Muhammad was pro-black. He wasn't a racist. He was pro-justice. It just so happens there was a lot of racism at his time where with the Arab Bedouins and whatever Jahiliyyah that they had, which happens that you have to mention a verse, no Arab is superior to an Arab, no non-Arab is superior to an Arab, and trying to establish justice. But his focus was the deen, and the deen is shifa for all issues.
What you just described wasn't the deen, nor was it shifa for anything.
Okay.
Right? You took the hadith of the Messenger of Allah sallam, and you actually used it in a manner to keep the oppressed people oppressed. This is not what the Prophet ﷺ meant, this general kumbaya type of thing. When the Prophet ﷺ meant which you called racism, which wasn't racism actually, it was prejudice and colorism. Racism is something that started in the 14th century. So you can imagine how he would have hated racism, because it's many times worse. But I digress, right? When the only times the Prophet ﷺ was ever harsh or showed any type of harshness was in the situations where it was racism. That's it. If you look at the hadith of Bilal and Abu Dhar, he was harsh then. Okay, when you look at there's another situation I can't remember, but every single time that came up, and if you look at this hadith that's in Bukhari, it's in Adab al-Mufrad. Where the Prophet says something, he's describing how to treat the racist. And he says, if you see anybody displaying the actions of the times of Jahiliyyah, then tell them to bite on their father's penis and do not give it a kunya, meaning don't sugarcoat it. He's telling you to be harsh against the racist. You're telling us to be nice with them. So who is following which sunnah here? The Prophet says something only showed harshness when it came to racism. He advised to show harshness to say that. And when he was saying in his last khutbah, right, there's no superiority over the white, over the black, or the Arab or the non-Arab. How are you going to use this very same hadith and try and use it against somebody who's trying to tell the people who's displaying the superiority that they shouldn't be superior? But when he's trying to do that job, you're trying to use it as a handcuff to prevent them from doing it. And meanwhile, I was saying that I would do this to stop injustice, I would do that to stop injustice. No, you're not. You're living in la la land, right? With the Prophet ﷺ, he was really about stopping justice.
Yes.
When he saw injustice, he didn't just talk about it. He went with his hand and he ended it. And so much so that there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he said that there are 3 levels of iman. The first is to change a harm with his hands. The second is change a harm with his heart. The third is to hate it, change it with his mouth. The third is to hate us to his heart. And the hating of in his heart is the least of iman. You won't even want to change it with your hand. You don't even want to do that. You don't even want to speak against it. Or nor do you want us to speak against it. When we say we are pro-black, you take it as some sort of racist thing. We have to be pro-black because the same laws that are used to keep the white supremacists up keep us down. So instead of siding with the oppressed, you're out here making the arguments for the oppressor. No, and on top of that, calling it Islamic. Go ahead, just talking. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you've detailed your argument passionately. Well, you expressed your argument passionately. But what is it that I said that says don't speak out?
Didn't I ask you specifically, right? Right? Did the Prophet ﷺ, did he not say whatchamacallit, the ayah in the Quran? The very first thing I said was in the Quran itself, it says Li ilafi Quraysh. And then you said, I don't think that the Prophet ﷺ was pro-black. I don't think he was. I think he was against racism, but I don't think he was pro anything. He was just speaking about injustice. And I said that he specifically dealt with injustices, right? And then you took it. No, you said no. You're giving this general hadith, right? So if you're giving a general answer for a specific problem, right? How does that solve your problem? You don't do this in anything in life. Rather, that's passing the buck.
So in terms of being very precise in trying to resolve an issue, that's fine. That's fine. But the tool should be Islam. The tool should be
absolutely. And we are using these Islamic tools, right, to make sure that our people, right, get our just desserts. And it doesn't make a difference what anybody else thinks. You're talking about 500 solid years of anti-black indoctrination, anti-black laws. Look what's going on in South Africa today. Look what's going on in the U.S. today, where people are getting snatched up, families separated. Is it the pro-blacks doing this?
Well, the pro-blacks are literally singing "Kill the Boer." Kill the
and they should kill the Boer, but the kill the Boer is an anti-apartheid song.
Oh, and it's not racist to say kill white people?
Kill the Boer is racist? Kill the Boer is racist.
Kill the
Boer disenfranchised some white South African somewhere. It took their money, it took their land, it took their wives. That's what Kill the Boer did?
And took their country,
Kill the Boer took their country. South Africa is the white man's country.
It's called South Africa. The white
South Africa is the white Dutch Boers' country. You can't make this stuff up. I just finished saying that you're making arguments for the white supremacists, and you just concluded by making an argument for an actual white supremacist while calling yourself Islamic. What the heck? What is this?
Yes, I'm not saying it belongs to them. I'm saying I agree that they've oppressed the people of the people of that region. I'm not saying that it belongs to them because they came in, they murdered innocent men, women, and children, and established apartheid. I'm not saying that. The point I'm making is that's evil. So is calling for their death on stage and saying kill the white man.
No, it's not.
So
how is that evil?
I'm not supporting apartheid, just to make sure.
How is that evil? If somebody comes into your house, right, and steals your children and molests your wife, and then you get your kitchen knife and stab him 70 times, are you unjust in doing that?
Kill him to the point where I can stop them doing what they're doing. That's self-defensive. Even if I die in the pursuit.
So what are we talking about here? You're talking about 7% of a foreign invader that own 90% of the wealth, 80% of the land, while the 80% of the black populations owns 4% of the land. And you mean to tell me that singing "Kill the Boer," an anti-apartheid song, that's the racism? You must be joking. Like we are living on 2 different planets. Absolutely 2 different planets.
Well, let's build a space bridge so we can put our 2 planets together, close together.
There is no planet I want to be where people are making arguments in favor of the oppressor. There's no planet I want to be. The only argument that you should be making is yes, the oppressor should be stopped. Yes, the Boer who is stealing the land, they should actually be killed. Right? Listen to gangster rap for about a week. That's actual genocide.
I think. Yep. Sorry.
Yeah, that's actual genocide.
What's genocide? The rap song?
Gangster rap and drill rap.
Oh yeah.
Where black children are being
aborted,
manipulated into killing each other.
Yeah. Drill.
That's actual genocide. You mean to tell me "Kill the Boers," a song that no Boers actually got killed from? All right, that's racism. You're tripping. Go ahead.
Okay, so I in terms of the drill music and modern rap music and whatever, it is a tool. It is a weapon to poison the youth and to promote self-genocide.
Yeah.
And abortions and liberalism and what have you, there to diminish the integrity of the black community. Mm-hmm. And I agree with you there. But what I'm saying is I'm stopping the oppressed being the oppressor or the because it
because we sang "Kill the Boers," so that's how you stop the oppressor, by telling us to stop killing.
Yes.
What? Go ahead.
Yes, are you coming from an Islamic perspective?
Yeah, this is Islamic.
Hold on.
This is Islamic.
Because of course I don't agree with "Kill the Boers."
I'm not talking about the song. I'm talking about fighting against oppression in a direct manner, right?
No. Basically, what's happening is they're actually going there and trying. They plan. That's the plan, is to kill them. What I'm asking is it Islamic to go out for South African, a black South African, to go out of his way and go to one of these guys, these white people's house, the farms, and then slaughter the entire family? Is it Islamic?
Not a single white farmer has been slaughtered to get the black people access to their actual farm.
I don't think
millions of black South Africans were slaughtered and killed for their land, not just their land, their human resources.
Yeah, so that's not what I asked.
Yeah, I know what you asked. But you asked a hypothetical situation that never happened. Okay, if black people decided to fight their oppressor in South Africa, then that is Islamic. If black people decided in South Africa, they said, you know what? These people are stolen our land. We are taking our land back. That is Islamic.
So you're saying, right? If a South African group of black people decided tomorrow to go and kill these white guys in their farms, okay, you would say that's Islamic.
As individuals, you can't do something like that because that will be that's not a strategy anyways. But let's say, for example, there was a leader back type of revolution, and that's what they do. What's the problem? What is really the problem? I'm asking you now. What's the problem?
That's genocide.
How is that genocide?
Killing innocent.
So right now we see an actual genocide happening in Palestine, right? How many of y'all shed a tear or batted an eye when Israel was bombarded by Iran?
Did I shed? Say that again.
How many of you shed a tear or batted an eye when Israel was bombarded by Iran?
Well, Israel fired the rockets at Iran, so it's just.
Oh! Now you see the justice.
I see.
You see what I'm saying?
Response.
When it comes to black people, it's always this massive, incredible double standard every single time.
I don't see
you literally didn't say anything, not a single thing.
Octavio,
about the black people getting their land stolen in South Africa. You're right straight to the innocent lily white Boer who got rich and very wealthy off an apartheid system, mind you, and is living comfortably off of stolen land. But hypothetically, if these black South Africans went and killed them for the land, what does Islam say about that? That's where you went straight to.
Well, you're tripping.
No, because
you kept saying
you're tripping. I'm not tripping. You're tripping.
Octavio, 1 second, if you don't mind. You're insinuating I'm racist with that Iranian example, that I think it's justified for Iran to fire rockets back at Israel because you said you. I don't think it's a double standard. You said I don't have sympathy for the black plight, but I would have sympathy for the Iranian plight in firing rockets back at Israel. Am I correct in understanding that way?
You tell me, am I correct in understanding that? That's exactly how I understand it.
Okay, fair enough.
That's exactly how I understand it, right? Are you telling me, am I incorrect in understanding the way that I understood it?
Yeah.
That you had sympathy for the Iranian retaliation, but you have zero sympathy if for the imaginary, hypothetical, non-existent black retaliation in South Africa?
Yeah. I think this is the problem with being pro-black and Muslim. You are incapable of seeing your own racism. It seems like that.
I'm racist. Okay, no problem. Explain my racism.
Not you. But in terms of your language that you're saying is far closer to being racist than anything that I've said.
No problem. How is that racist? How?
Okay, so if a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white lily, as you said, family in somewhere outside of Johannesburg is on their farm who may have ancestors that have acquired that land through apartheid. The apartheid regime ended. There is peace established. There is no aggression. Any issues that may be in terms of inappropriately acquired wealth still being the case in the nation that needs to be resolved in a civil matter through the courts and the legal process. You think it's fine for a militia to go and execute them and it's justified. How would that not be racist?
You know, people who don't understand the history of a place, right, should learn the history of that place first before they say anything, right? When did apartheid end? When did apartheid end?
1991.
1994.
Okay.
Who was the president after the apartheid regime was dismantled?
Would it be Nelson Mandela?
It was Nelson Mandela, right? What party was he in?
The ANC, I think.
ANC, okay.
Am I wrong?
Yeah, the ANC was the ruling party, right?
Oh.
For 33 decades, the ANC was the ruling party. And what economic gains did the black population make between 1994 to 2024?
Not too sure.
Zero. And you mean to tell me the people who are writing the laws are somehow going to write laws in favor of people who they are exploiting? When does this ever happen in history? Like, what are you talking about? Power only respects power. It wasn't until the Prophet ﷺ arrived in Mecca with a massive army that the Meccans said, you know what, we submit. At every turn, the pagans of Mecca were trying to assassinate, kill, exploit, all kind of stuff. They had a treaty, they're breaking the treaty every single chance they got. When Allah finally strengthened the Prophet ﷺ with this army, he went into Mecca in a relatively bloodless coup and took over Mecca.
Did the Prophet Muhammad break any of his treaties?
No, he didn't.
So in a time of civil, peaceful society, which South Africa is now, there is no militias, there is no gangs raiding the streets, killing people. Would it be justified to go and kill innocent South African white lily people in the countryside? If there is
injustice, you're in a time of oppression, correct?
Say that again.
If you are in a time of injustice, that's an oppression, correct? You're in a time of oppression, correct?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So if you're in a time of oppression, should you be preparing for more oppression, or should you be preparing to change that oppression, whether militarily or otherwise?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you should take efforts to undo the injustice of the society.
In your situation, in your logic, the only way to do it is diplomatically. That's you.
That's not true. That's not true.
So you can't do it militarily then?
You can do it, but it's the last one.
Okay, so when I say a military option should be on the table, what do you say?
I think you're not suggesting it's on the table. I think you're saying it is the table.
I never said that. You asked me a question. I answered the question based upon your question. But what you want me to say is that it is the only solution. That's not what I said.
I'm not saying it is the only solution. I'm not saying it's the only solution. I'm saying it's the solution.
I said, based upon your question, right? I told you quite bluntly, the only people that have a history of genocide in South Africa is the very same lily white genociders that you seek to protect. You're not going to use my words or Islam to protect an oppressor. You're not going to do that.
I'm not trying.
At least not with me.
I'm not trying to. I'm trying to.
At least not with me. But I said very clearly that a military option should be on the table. Why not? You're being oppressed. Why not? What's the problem?
I'm not saying it shouldn't be on the table. I'm saying it's probably the last option, if not avoided at all costs, in my opinion. Because bloodshed and singing on stage of "Kill the Boer" is something that is self-serving, abhorrent, against Islam,
as opposed to the actual bloodshed inflicted on the very same people who are singing songs.
They are alive to sing those songs, so they have time to go down a diplomatic route, go down a civil route, not rush towards bloodshed. Because look at the people.
Which brings me to my initial question.
Go ahead.
What work do you have against the white supremacist? Since you have all of this finger wagging against people singing "Kill the Boer," what do you have to say against the apartheiders? What do you have to say against them?
Ask me a question, and
I don't have nothing. I have nothing. You're the one who asking me the questions to come out and defend apartheiders. I'm not doing it.
I'm not,
and you're not going to get me to do it.
I'm just trying to separate you from the pro-black perspective, and
you can't. I'm black, and I'm going to be pro-black.
I wish you would rather be Muslim rather than.
I am Muslim, and my Islam requires me and necessitates for me to fight against the oppressor. And if the oppressor just happens to be a white supremacist, then I will seek Allah's face in fighting them. You better believe that. They are the power. They are the power in the world today. They are the Fir'aun of today. It's not the pro-blacks. It's not the pro-blacks that cause apartheid. It's not the pro-blacks that drop nuclear bombs in Hiroshima. It's not the pro-blacks that are causing Palestine to get razed to the ground. It's not the pro-blacks that brought you genocide in Congo, genocide in Libya, genocide in Iraq, genocides in Afghanistan. It's all the white supremacists. And you mean to tell me that I need to fight the pro-blacks? You're joking. You're joking.
I'm not saying fight the pro-blacks. I'm saying
not to be a pro-black. After all the incidents of actual killing, actual genocide, actual anti-black indoctrination through media, through music, through school, all of this, and still you don't want me to be pro-black? You're tripping.
Never be pro-black. I'm encouraging you to never be pro-black.
No worries. I'm going to continue being pro-black.
I wish better for you, brother. I can see it even in this example that you've given to justify singing on stage to say "kill the Boer," the Boer, justifying the idea of the hypothetical. Because even you gave a hypothetical, I entertained it. Octavio gave the hypothetical, you entertained it. But I feel your hypothetical, it's not aligned to Islam. Allah will, I feel like would disagree with you on this issue, but I can't speak for him.
It's not in line to Islam in terms of singing, in terms of music. I don't agree with that. You're right. You're right. But what you weren't asking me in terms of that.
No, I'm asking
you were asking me in terms of genocide, correct?
Yes, to kill the boy is a genocide.
Kill the Boer is not a genocide. Kill the Boer is a song. How many lily white apartheiders died from the singing of "Kill the Boer"? Just show me one.
I'm quite good at research.
Yeah. I know. I know you don't have any.
The question. Sorry guys. Can I just ask a question? The question is, can you give me some Islamic verses that you think, oh, this aligns with my pro-black stance on killing the white Boers in South Africa?
What? Wait, hold on. Wait, time out. Wait. What did you just say?
No, because remember.
Wait.
Hold on.
Left turn somewhere, man. Like what?
Hold on. Just talking is basically saying he doesn't believe that your view on the Boers is Islamic, and you're saying it is Islamic.
Because fighting the oppressor.
Hold on, guys.
Fighting the oppressor is from Islam.
Okay.
Fighting the oppressor is from Islam.
No, exactly.
Who is the oppressor in the world today?
No, absolutely. So what I'm asking,
that's where I'm coming from.
Remember,
you guys turned into something completely different.
No, hold on. The question.
About me killing the Boer.
Hold on. No. Yeah, Justice, just let me get it. Let me get this off. Okay. Basically, because we've asked you several times, and I want to make sure that we get a clear answer on this, because I think, because I don't want us to go around in circles for no reason. Okay, yes, you're calling the situation that's going on right now in South Africa with the Boers owning all those lands as oppression, right?
Of course it is.
Yeah, it is oppression. So so under oppression, and you think it is oppression, you say it is oppression. So
is it oppression?
Hold on a second. Doesn't it? No. Doesn't it?
It's not oppression.
Doesn't it justify?
Wow. Okay.
Hold on a second. Doesn't it justify? Then wouldn't black people in South Africa be justified to go out there and literally slaughter them? Because guess what? It is, you regard it as oppression. So what I'm asking is there? How did you arrive at this if that's your position, how did you arrive at this decision, this conclusion Islamically, like with verses, and what is it that you can point us to verse wise, hadith, Quran, that says, okay, it's okay under oppression for Black South Africans to go out there and slaughter them? If they were to do that, you know what, they're fighting against oppression, so they are justified.
Fighting oppression in general is Islamic. Now you're turning something that I actually did not say. All right, I said, and I continue to say, and I will always say that Allah orders us to fight oppression. I gave the hadith already. Change the evil with your hands, change the evil with your tongue, or hate it in your heart. And the least of faith is to hate it in your heart. And on top of that, I do say, and I will continue to say, if for some reason, right, that the Black South Africans decided that they will uprise and basically fight the Boer or kill the Boer, like in the song, then what's the problem? I don't have any issue with that. What is the actual issue?
Yeah, so I'm not misrepresenting you.
If the white Boer wants peace, then they should act like they want peace. Correct?
Okay, so I'm not misrepresenting you when I say you would be okay if, let's say, that was to happen. They were to.
I wouldn't have an issue. What's the problem? It's just like Palestinians.
Exactly. That's what I'm asking, because I don't want
Palestinians today were to get armaments and
I don't want you to think as if I'm misrepresenting in any way, shape, or form. If that's what you're saying, then and you're saying this is Islamic, what I was just asking is, okay, all right, is there an Islamic
fighting oppression in general is Islamic. Fighting oppression.
So,
I'm not saying that those South Africans are somehow going to get rewarded by Allah if they started killing Boers. They're not Muslim.
Yeah.
Right. We hope that they become Muslim for sure.
If they were Muslim and they were fighting oppression,
that's a different. And
they kill those Boers.
If they were Muslim, then it becomes obligatory
for them to kill them. Right.
Not necessarily kill them, but to resist for sure. Right, and to resist it in an intelligent manner.
Okay,
right?
In an intelligent manner. But if it came to killing them, would that be Islamic?
Yeah, if they had the means and the ability to do it, of course. Yeah, if they have the ability. Not like what happened.
Do you agree with this?
Not like what happened with Hamas. Like not like that type of just kind of like haphazard.
Okay. I think you. In all fairness to you, brother, I don't think, because Octavio is very precise with his question. And if it seems like that he's trying to guide you towards the idea that genocide is somehow permissible in Islam, which is what he's doing, you've fallen right into that trap.
It's not a trap for me. It's not a trap for me.
It is
if you get the idea that I'm pro-genocide, I'm not.
You've argued for genocide.
I will say it again. I will say it again. Violent resistance is not just something that is honorable, right? But rather, in Islam, if you have the ability to do so, it becomes almost like obligatory. Violent.
The only justification you gave is that from 1994 to 2025, the Black South Africans have not become wealthier. Therefore, it is somehow justified to take an armed resistance against the
why have they become more
society?
Can you explain to me? Is it because
that is genocide?
These black South Africans are just less intelligent than their white colonizing counterparts? Go ahead.
That is misrepresenting Islam. You're calling for genocide. You're justifying. You're not calling for it. Sorry. You're justifying it and using Islamic interpretations to go to justify it. Octavio is very precise with his questions because he most likely, and hopefully I'm not misrepresenting you, Octavio. He's mostly going to clip this interview.
Yeah, no problem.
And he's going to write, Muslim says you can kill. Something like this. I know Octavio. I've danced this dance before.
I'll tell you why. Because Hassan, there's a Muslim here who doesn't agree with another Muslim about another Muslim's interpretation. So I wouldn't do that. So that's not fair on me. But what I'm asking, because what I'm hearing sounds like genocide. So that's why I'm asking over and over again,
what is it that I haven't answered exactly?
Exactly, because I think, hold on, and I want Hassan's opinion on this. Hassan, how is it?
I want to know what it is I haven't answered.
Yeah, because everything that you're saying right now, this is what it sounds to me, that Islamically it is okay under oppression, and you've identified that there is oppression going on with the Boers owning the amount of land that they
You're the
own.
one who said there wasn't, by the way, on record.
Exactly.
On record.
I'm the one that said there wasn't. You said there was. So you said under that type of oppression, any type of oppression, it is Islamic for Muslim to take up arms and at the last resort use violence,
Violent resistance.
to the point where they actually kill the Boers, right? So I'm saying okay, this is what it sounded to me. That sounds like genocide to me. Now you're saying, now Hassan is saying to me, no, if he is not, this is not genocide, and so on and so forth.
Whoa. I said it is genocide.
It is genocide, right? So it is
kill
genocide.
white Boers. It is genocide. Where he's killed the boys is a call for genocide. What the hell? That's all I've been saying.
Okay, so in that case, I'm not misrepresenting anyone. If that is Feachaz's position, that is Feachaz's position.
No problem. Just talking. Do you know who Julius Malema is?
I don't know who Julius Malema is.
Yeah. You see, you don't know what you're just talking. Just doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just talking, right? He wants to say He wants to say to kill the Boer is a call to genocide, right? That song that's been around since the 80s, mind you. It's not a new song. Okay. It is an anti-apartheid song that appeared in the 80s, mind you. He doesn't know who Julius Malema, which tells me for sure 100% he didn't research it at all. He probably saw it on his right-wing Twitter feed somewhere, right? Am I wrong? Am I wrong? Just talking. Is that where you found it?
I think randomly on YouTube. Probably, yeah. I don't know. I've got a lot of right-wingers on my Twitter.
You got it on your Twitter, didn't you?
Most likely, yeah. I've got a lot of right-wingers.
You see, you can't tell me none, okay? Because I'm not just talking. I actually know what I'm talking about, right? Julius Malema, he is the leader of the ECC, right? The EFF, rather, Economic Freedom Fighters, right? And that's a political party there in South Africa, right? He had a rally, right, where he sang that song, okay? They took him to court. The Supreme Court of South Africa, the same place that you said, right? You saying that this is a what you call it, a genocide song. That's what you said. Now I didn't say it. Okay.
Yeah, I said, yeah.
They rule. Not only they rule in his favor, but they added that this is into the ruling that this is an anti-apartheid song. You are out here repeating the talking points of the actual enemy of Allah on earth, the white supremacists, while talking about, oh, I'm representing Islam. Yes, you are just talking. Yes, you are just talking for sure, right? The actual white supremacists are repeating this talking point that this anti-apartheid song, which the Supreme Court of South Africa actually ruled in the Supreme Court that it is not a genocide song. It is an anti-apartheid song, right? You're saying that's a genocide song. Based on what? Based on what? Your Twitter feed. That's what you're basing it on. I'm basing it on an actual historic fact. You're basing it on your Twitter feed. Go ahead.
Is this true, Hassan?
Is it true, Hassan? Is it true? Go ahead, tell him, Octavia. Tell him. Is it true?
Just talk. Is this true?
You're joking. Relax, Octavia. So, is it true that I found it on my Twitter feed? I don't remember. Do I follow? Do I follow?
Stuttering again.
Well, this is the way I speak. There's nothing wrong the way I speak. I've been kind to you and respectful to you.
Yeah. No, I know. I'm playing a little bit. I'm gassing you up a bit, you know. But
fair.
but at the same time, right? Those folks who are standing up for the enemies of Allah in our era, the actual enemies of Allah, making talking points for the actual enemies of Allah in our era, right? And then let's say that like someone like this died today, right? They get taken to Allah. You don't think Allah's going to ask him about that? Why are you out here defending the Boers? Like, are you kidding me right now? Allah's not going to ask you about that? Why are you?
I'll answer that question very directly. I'll answer that question. Let me respond to your three previous points. I'll answer that question of why I think kill the Boer is an oppressive call to genocide, and that it is abhorrent, and the ICCJ are wrong for their decision and cowardly. Having said that,
sure, just talking. Sure, go ahead.
Please. You made a few points. The first point: did I find it on my right-wing Twitter feed? Possibly. Do I follow a lot of far right-wing Twitter? Yes, it's quite addictive. Unfortunately, that's the negative part of Twitter. You just gravitate towards the most negative things, but I do follow a lot. I follow Charlie Kirk. I follow all the right wingers you can think of, and the far right. I think I even follow Nick Fuentes as well. I follow all the far right people you can think of.
Mm-hmm.
It makes my Twitter a bit more interesting. It's addictive, but you know, you got to add a bit of spice in there. And kill the Boer is it's anti-Islamic. My Muslim beliefs rebuff the idea that kill the Boer is a appropriate thing to say post the apartheid. Because I remember maybe at the time when it was written, it was maybe a war song of some sort, and maybe there's some justification in terms of conflict, that they're enemies of one another and one is singing kill the other, and okay, fair enough. But in today's post-apartheid society, where there is a civil society and there is no mass violence as there was during apartheid, to sing that song is evil. Now,
but listening to Nick Fuentes isn't.
Yeah, listen to
it. Listening to Nick Fuentes isn't. But saying kill the Boer is, which is more harmful.
Let me finalize my other point. The ICCJ is wrong for saying it's not a what you call it? It's not a apartheid song. Sure. My evidence for that, or my argument for that, is there are many courts in the world and many governments in the world at the moment who do not call the persecution of the Palestinian people, sorry, not the Palestinian people, because Palestine doesn't exist. The persecution of the people of Gaza, not a war crime, not, I guess it's a genocide, not evil, because it is evil, and have not cut ties with the Israeli government economically or socially or in any other way. They're wrong as well. Just because a court says something doesn't necessarily mean it's justice. There are some political motivations. You
have not given up. You talked like a long time about this proof that you were going to give me that this is a genocide. That's my best without providing a single shred, sliver, dot, iota of evidence. All anecdotal speech and what you think. When I gave you the actual evidence, the only thing that you reduced your answer to was dismissing the actual evidence. The courts can be wrong, and the courts can be wrong, and the courts. You see, you want your cake and eat it too. Yeah. Prove that's a genocide song. That is not proof.
I haven't answered
Nick Fuentes.
Before you get onto that,
go ahead.
Your last question was, what would you say on the day of resurrection when you go to
that's what I'm really worried about. I'm out here actually in the belly of the beast, fighting the actual oppressors with my tongue, making jihad with my tongue, because that's all I can do.
Okay,
so I'm actually fighting the actual oppressive group who have actual long history and long, robust, proud resume of oppression, and all you can come up with is kill the Boers, a genocide song.
Feachaz, if you could do more than just fight them.
Octavio, please let me answer the question. You've got a good question, I'm sure, but
I think that was one question. That was actually a great question.
This guy, he loves praising himself. Oh my God.
Go ahead. A few more brothers, and then I gotta go. Inshallah, I gotta pray and stuff. Right?
I will say to Allah, I had the image in my mind of an innocent man, woman, or child who happened to have blonde hair, blue eyes, live in a country. Maybe their ancestors acquired their wealth through apartheid. Maybe they're somewhat complicit of what their ancestors did. And maybe they were wrong in reaping the rewards of what their ancestors did and acquire that land. But I could not, in my heart, justify the murder of those people.
And at the same time, that same heart that couldn't justify the murder of those people, that same heart couldn't bring any words in defense of the ones that those people that he's protecting are oppressing. You couldn't do that. Not a single word, not a sentence, not nothing. The only thing that you could do is protect the the hypothetical and alleged innocent benefactors of apartheid. Alleged. That's all you could do. That's what you're going to go to Allah with? MashaAllah, Mabruk. You read and you learned from the Quran very well. Go ahead, Octavio.
Yeah. And we're going to end it soon. But you said you are now fighting. You're on the belly of the beast, and you are now fighting with your tongue. Are you implying, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I already had my debate with Brother Figgy, so it was interesting to watch you guys go back and forth, and I didn't want to, interfere too much. But are you implying that you would do more if you could if you had the resources to, in order to fight the oppressor.
Damn right I would. Are you kidding me? There's big reward in doing what I'm doing right now, because the vast majority of the people, right, are basically, under the spell of their social media. So in the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned about these times. He talked about the Ruwaybada, these vile, deficient men who are in positions of power that shouldn't be, and they mislead themselves and they mislead the people. He talked about the rise of hatred that was spread. He talked about al-harj. Al-harj is upheavals. He talked about all this stuff. We used to think about what it was like 15, 20 years ago, and now we know what it is, right? So me just talking about it right now and receiving all the heat I get, I'm getting reward for that already, right? If there was an opportunity to end the life of a devil, you damn right I would.
And would you kidding me? And you would say that, and you would say that's Islamic?
Of course it is. What you call it? Jesus, peace be upon him. Right. See, the thing is, I think some of y'all, you look at these scriptures and you look at, these, for example, the ayats of the Quran or the Hadith or even verses of the Bible, but you're looking at it dogmatically. You're not looking at it from the perspective of the actual prophets living in those eras, in those times, right? You're looking at like very dogmatically, right?
No.
Yeah, you definitely do, Octavio. Sorry to say like that.
Hold on.
You absolutely do.
You're Catholic, you can't deny it.
you, for sure you do, Octavio. Sorry to drop a dime on you like that, but bro.
I forgive you guys. I forgive you. All right.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Pray to Mary?
Oh my! Here we go. But the thing is, what I was gonna say is when I look at the lives of the prophets, and I feel for you guys, because we have the entire books, with everything, every detail about what the prophets did and said and so on. So I don't look at it dogmatically when I'm looking at the lives of the prophet. I do put myself in those positions. And hold on, and I'm not trying to trip you up with that question, because what I'm asking is, we believe.
Well, I wasn't finished, so I'll let you finish. I'll get to that.
We believe in just war. If we are being oppressed to the level where our loved ones are in danger, then and they trying to enslave us and so on and so forth, we believe in that type of we believe it is just to defend ourselves. So we believe in just war. So my intention wasn't to trip you up necessarily, but that depends, and that ruling it belongs to the Pope only. It doesn't belong to us.
Oh no, you in big trouble then.
No, it's true.
I just finished saying that you look at it dogmatically. You said no, just to bring back dogma. I'm like, okay, go ahead.
Yes,
go ahead.
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, that's how we look at it. But and how would you? And this is what I really wanted to ask is, and whose decision would that be to when it came to let's say you having the resources and being able to do more, like kill the devil, as you put it? Whose decision would that be? Would you need some kind of Islamic authority to tell you can do this?
Of course. That can only be done.
So you wouldn't be able to. You wouldn't do, even if you had the resources, you couldn't do it just because you felt like doing it.
That's correct. The only time it becomes justified is if it's defensive, right? So if it's defensive, then death is preferable to slavery, right? So, but other than that, like if you're doing it, for
and you would say what's happening in South Africa, that would be, you would consider that as to be defensive.
It's not necessarily defensive right now because it's there's stability there, but like I said, I do not take the right away from the South African people to violently revolt. Why would I do something like that? The wealth of the white boar, was it achieved peacefully?
So
was it achieved through diplomacy? Was it achieved through honoring treaties and things of this nature?
So the Feachaz, you wouldn't condemn them either. If they
why would I do something silly like that?
Okay. What if they were Muslims? What if they were Muslims and they did that, okay, without an Islamic authority telling them to do so? Would you condemn them for reacting like?
Yeah, of course, because there's hadith about that specifically. But that very same scenario that you just described there. There's hadith about that.
So only if an Islamic authority gave you the go ahead, then you would go out and do that, right?
Yeah, of course.
That's the only way. Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
of course.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. So that's kind of dogmatic as well, isn't it? Yeah.
The features isn't. Are you still there? Or?
Yeah, I'm here.
Isn't there a hadith that says that you will have leaders that have hearts of devils that will beat your back?
This is Sahih Muslim, that hadith.
Yeah. So the idea that the Boer is being robbed of their wealth and their opportunity gives them justification to go down a violent revolt. Isn't that going against Islam?
No, because they're not Muslim. They weren't Muslim to begin with.
So why are we giving them moral and justification for their actions if they're not Muslims?
Well, who's justifying their actions? You're the one who's justifying, not me. Since I started talking, I started speaking against their oppression. So you're the one who's defending them. You're the one who openly and recorded said that singing the song "Kill the Boer" is a genocide song, even though I brought actual proof, like real proof, not innuendo, not guesswork, not a Twitter feed, right? Yeah. That it's not a genocide song, even ruled by the South African Supreme Court as not a genocide song, and you still insisted that it was a genocide song based upon your feelings. And I'm you know what? Yeah, let me leave the actual evidence and just follow your feelings because that makes more sense to me.
Well, you present a contradictory point. You're saying it's an oppressive state, but then you're appealing to the state as an authority.
The only genocide music that I know of that is actual genocide music is the appropriated by Jewish music moguls, gangster rap, and what's that other drill rap? That I can say is genocide music. I don't know any other music that's genocide music, especially not that song. Not a single Boer was killed from that song, not one. But you call it a genocide song.
It's a call to genocide.
Mashallah. I'm not allowed to call it genocide. Okay. The imaginary genocide that we are witnessing right now, as opposed to the actual genocide that is happening all over Africa and the Congo, and black people actually being kidnapped, sold into slavery, sex slavery in Libya. Yeah, see what's going on in Sudan. But the only thing worth mentioning in Brother Octavio's channel in terms of genocide is the "Kill the Boer" song.
Yes, and I'm doing it to oppose your pro-black.
Let's go by your feelings. No problem. We'll go by.
No, it's to oppose your pro-black Muslim perspective.
Well, how's that going for you? How's that working out for you? You think you're doing pretty good there, buddy?
I think so.
How do you think you fared?
So you can be Muslim and pro-black. Wow.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely.
And how did you think you did presenting your argument today? Just talking. I'm just asking. I think you did a pretty good job. Maybe you can ask Nick Fuentes how you did.
I think it's a facetious question, maybe.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah. So the point I'm making is I think the pro-black perspective has blinded you to justice, and I think it's made I think it diminishes your potential as a Muslim to a certain
word.
Not you specifically, because I don't want to make that personal judgment of you, but based on your arguments.
You meant me specifically. It's fine.
I don't want to judge you. I don't want to judge you personally.
No, it's okay. No
He's talking about you, yes.
I'm not talking about you personally. I'm just using your arguments because I'm sure other people have similar arguments to yourself.
Where are they? Who are they?
I can't think of any.
Exactly. Because you listen to far right, alt right Twitter feeds.
Does that make me far right if I listen to the far right?
It does.
You speak with pure far right. How do you think I knew?
You what?
How do you what am I, a mind reader? Am I talking to the jinn right now? I'm just listening to the way you speak. That's it.
So
That's
I'm far right.
Yeah, of course you are. Are you kidding me?
Simply because I said the death to the Boer, whatever it was, "Kill the Boer" song was a call to genocide.
You need to go to my channel and watch some of my videos. I'm not somebody that goes and invest in my own indoctrination on social media. Anybody who knows me knows that about me.
But you're definitely incorrect about me.
And that's why I can point out very quickly.
Yeah.
Just by listening, especially to the young people coming up today.
Yeah.
What they listen to just by the way they talk, because you invest in your own indoctrination, so you can be bold enough to say that Kill the Boer is a genocide song,
It is.
while at the same time, up until right now, you had nothing to say against the actual genociders, actual people of guilty of actual genocide. Not a
Bring them
single
up.
word,
Bring them
not
up.
one.
Bring them up. I've told you my motivation of why I say the call.
Yeah. And I told you my motivation, and I that's why I asked you facetiously how you think you did.
The point is, brother, your pro-black perspective is blinding you to the point where you're calling me just because.
How was that blind? How was that blind? How did I know you listened to Nick? You're the one who volunteered the rest of the information. How you think I knew? That's not blind. That is called a hypothesis, an educated guess. And guess what? My educated guess was educatedly right.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Necessarily right. Necessarily it was right.
No. What you're looking
It's
for
okay. You are. It is what it is. You is what you is. It's all
you're looking
just.
for you have confirmation, brother. You have confirmation bias.
What? Wait, time out. Hold on. Wait a minute. The one who was bringing you Supreme Court rulings has confirmation bias, and the one who brought you his Twitter feed from Nick Fuentes has what now? Has what is the one who has that? The one who's listening to Twitter?
You're the one confirmation bias.
Okay, brother. Okay, last words. Go ahead.
I enjoyed it, guys. I love it. Sorry, Hassan, you wanted to finish something?
Yeah. So the point. Yeah. So the point I was making before the brother Feachaz closed down the show. The point I wanted to say is your pro-black perspective is blinding you to justice. Maybe even I think it's blinding you to justice because I don't want to make an absolute statement. It's unfair. I think it's blinding you to justice. I think it's making you have it's making you come to. Making you even make arguments that distort the interpretation of the Quran to suit your pro-black perspective. It may be that you have a pro-black perspective and you incorporate, you're still a Muslim, I'm not questioning your Islam, but it's just that you incorporate that pro-black perspective, even to the point where you say the oppressors are the white supremacists globally. And of course, there are oppressors everywhere, but their racial identity isn't an indicator of how.
Wow. That is very far. Wow. Oh, anyways, go ahead.
Far right, yeah.
That is so far, man. Wow, that is crazy.
Far right, yeah.
Did I misrepresent you?
No. I'm just saying that your take, whew, that was crazy. That was absolutely crazy. But anyways,
sometimes Allah sends us people that shows clearly how straight we may be, and I think you are.
Yeah, and yes, you were displaying it on record right now, on recorded live. Damn, that is nuts. If Pharaoh was alive today, you'd be like, well, Pharaoh, I know he's a bad guy, but look, man, he's just trying to keep his identity as being the God on the earth. That's you. That's that's you, and the rest of the far right, what you would call a populace. This is crazy, man. Muslims should not speak like that at all. That is nuts. That is nuts. You should take a firm stance against the actual oppressors and not this wishy-washy defense of them. That's crazy. That is really crazy.
I do, but I don't try to focus on race that much. It may be a tool.
How could you not? You saying that you don't focus on race that much, but at the same time saying that "Kill the Boer" is an apartheid song? That's proof that you focus on race a lot. But you focus on making sure you make excuses for the oppressor, and you just did. And you did it in an unabashed, and you did it in a very unabashed, obvious, shameless way. That was crazy, bro. That was really crazy. Anyways, go ahead.
I'll clarify. So just to clarify my point with those points that you made, I do not focus on race. I do focus on racists. The Kill the Boer song is a racist song. There are racist organizations like Nick Fuentes. He is a racist. Charlie Kirk, as far as I'm 99% sure he's racist. In my opinion, he is a racist, but he dances around the topic. Just because I follow far right people on Twitter doesn't mean I'm one of them. Just because I oppose your perspective it means I'm far right. Again, I think you're blinded by race. I think it's overwhelmed your ability to fully interpret the scriptures and the verses, as you said, in the most appropriate and balanced way, to the point where you can hear a song being sung by a black person, but because you relate to them ethnically, you will forgive their call for genocide. Because if it was the other way around, I think you would be saying something different. I think you were saying the call to genocide, kill the African or kill whatever, kill the black man or whatever. Immediately you would pick up on the fact that it is racist. These justifications of historical context and so on and so forth are ways to maybe to further blind yourself and justify whatever unresolved issues that you may have when it comes to race, to be honest with you. I hope you overcome this. I wish you the best. I think the pro-black perspective has nothing to do with Islam. I think Islam is purely about justice, and he uses the right tool at the right time, and it is always fair and is always just, and it always produces the best results. Many have gone astray, whether it be Arab nationalists, whether it be pro-black, whether it be pro-white Muslims. I've even seen that on Twitter now, which is another disease that's just coming across the people. We just need to focus on a more balanced approach and not necessarily reinterpret how the prophets would do things to suit our current narrative. And maybe you've given me a few jabs, so I'll give you one little jab here. Although I don't think it's
Hey, makers, then. They're going there.
You better take your best shot while you can.
No.
Go ahead. You better get it in. Getting is good. So go ahead. Take your shot there.
I respect you for listening. Just a slight little jab. I hope that you can get away from this movie playing in your head that maybe you're Django Unchained or whatever it is, or Django, and going out to fight the white oppressor and to be the black Mehdi or whatever it is that maybe is playing in the movie that's playing in your head. I hope you become better in your interpretation of Islam. Don't mean it in a disrespectful way, but just expressing the best way I can advise you, I think.
Yeah, sure.
If that was your best shot, Hassan, you're gonna have to take some boxing lessons, man. But anyway, go on. Can I go out? Can I go, Octavio, or you want to go, or you want me to go, or like how you want to do this?
You go, Octavio. You go, Cassius. You go, bro.
Right. So at any rate, we just heard talking, right? Give this long, I hope you don't be pro-black, and pro-black is nothing Islam and blah blah blah, and meanwhile making excuses for the actual oppressor, right? And then on top of that, right, saying that Islam has nothing to do with pro-black. People like you are the reason why we are pro-black. Especially people like you, right? Because all you do is make excuses for the actual oppressor. That's all you do. You are like the Sadducees and the Pharisees at the time of Jesus, peace be upon him. You're the same type of person, right? You have that pro-imperial, pro-colonial mindset, and then you turn around and say that the prophets wouldn't have been pro-black. Let me ask you something, okay? If the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu was alive today, would he be riding with Nick Fuentes, or would he be riding with the poor, oppressed people all over the earth? Which one is he going to ride with?
Good question.
If Jesus, peace be upon him, was alive today, would he be riding with the white apartheid South African ruling class, or would be right there in the slums with the poor black people there in South Africa? Which one would he be riding? You don't know the prophets. That's the problem. This is what you know. You know far right talking points, and you try to Islamify them, and you can't. But meanwhile, I legit have the Quran on my side. I legit have the Hadith on my side. I legit have examples of the actual prophets on my side. I can bring, and which I have. I brought example time and time. Actual examples, not some general wishy-washy statement. Actual, real examples of the prophets fighting oppression. Jesus, peace be upon him, he was like the Malcolm X of his time. He had a ruling, colonial power at the time in the Romans. And on top of that, he had the high Jewish elites who were the go-betweens between the Romans and the poor Jews at his time. He was dealing with a lot. You think he'd be out there talking about, we got to make excuses for these high Jewish elites? The Jewish elites hated Jesus because he stood up for the poor. The high-class Jews hated Jesus because he stood up for the oppressed. This is the Isa bin Maryam that we know. This is the Prophet Muhammad something that we know. I don't know which prophet you talking about saying that, we got to make excuse for the oppressor and their offspring. You're tripping. You're tripping. God himself destroyed Sodom. God himself destroyed Gomorrah. He didn't just destroy the soldiers in Sodom and the ruling class in Gomorrah. No, when he destroyed them completely. He killed the women, he killed the children, he killed the dogs, he killed all of Sodom and Gomorrah. Are you going to say God is a genocider? Is that what you're going to say? I'm not even saying that. I'm saying that the South Africans, oppressed South Africans and oppressed people everywhere, have the right to violently resist, and you are trying to label me or somehow use this statement to say that I'm pro-genocide. And you have actual examples of genocide. And on top of that, you're making excuses about a song being genocide, when there's actual real genocide music poisoning the minds of black youth all over the West, and you don't have nothing to say about that. You're tripping. I'm not the one who's tripping. I know what I'm talking about, right? And you can never, ever, ever in your life Islamify oppression. No matter how much you try, no matter how much you love your oppressor, no matter how much you love Zaddy and your far right devils, you can never Islamify them. You can't purify poop. I'm sorry. The only thing poop is good for is become fertilizer. You throw it in the ground. That's it. Anyway, sorry, Octavio. Go. I know I said it.
Right. Wow.
Go ahead. You're tripping, man. You're tripping. Right? If Jesus came today, he wouldn't go to the oppressor. He wouldn't go to Donald Trump. He wouldn't go to the Proud Boys. He would go to the oppressed. He would go to the downtrodden. He would go to the poor, the destitute. He would go to the so-called black people of all around the world who are oppressed. That's who he would go to. You're tripping. You don't know what you're talking about. I know what I'm talking about. So no matter how much you say, oh, this pro-black thing is messing up my mind. No, my brother. I don't sit on Twitter on far right feeds. I don't sit there watching, trying to get talking points from Django. I read the Quran. I read the Sunnah. I see how the Prophet Sallallahu stood brave and firm against the oppressor, and how Allah mentions time and time again, he hates the oppressor. He hates the oppressed. Not he loves them, he hates them, while you out here making excuses for them and calling it Islamic. You must be out your mind. Anyways, go ahead, Octavio.
Guys, listen, I enjoyed this exchange, this back and forth between two Muslims. It was really interesting. I've just been listening to you guys. You know, it's interesting to see you guys going at it, even though it wasn't meant to be a debate or anything, but it developed into that. And
sorry, say Malish. I know.
It's fine, bro. It's fine.
My fault. It's my fault. Yeah.
No. It's always going to be what it is. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, you know, we heard it here. Everyone heard it here. Hassan is stripping. I'm joking, Hassan. I'm joking. You know, but I love it.
How can I be tripping when I had a nice stretch halfway through the bed?
And I enjoyed it, guys. Listen, man, it's always going to be what it's going to be. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, guys. If you have respect for passing through, man, anytime you see a live that interests you and you want to pass through and, you know, share your comments, you're more than welcome. And I wasn't expecting this, and I love the outcome. I love the outcome. But yeah, this is going to be it. Thanks everyone for interacting with the Solution Podcast today. Everyone in the comments section.
One more thing, Octavio, before we go. I just want your permission if I can clip this, inshallah.
Yes, absolutely, 100%, brother. Feel free. And yes, shout out to Aaron McKay and everyone in the comments section, Aspra, Negus, and all of that. But anyways, guys, take care. This is Solution Podcast. Peace.
Can I say something as well?
Yes.
So I think the correct pronunciation is the Feachaz. Not
the Feachaz. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, the Feachaz.
The Feachaz, right? Okay.
I just want to give you what I heard one of my co-hosts say once, or co-guests, a virtual handshake. I appreciate the back and forth between you and I. You spoke honestly, and you did listen to my points, and you do know how to take a joke, which I appreciate.
Thank you so much. Hey, sometimes I get a little carried. I apologize, man, but that's just my
no apology needed, because you spoke sincerely. I hope you weren't offended by anything that I said.
No. I hope you weren't offended by anything I said.
I was offended by a lot of what you two said, but anyway.
Nobody cares.
That's the spirit.
But much respect to Feachaz for actually speaking sincerely, I guess. Yeah, that's the correct.
My pleasure.
All right, guys. Anyways, guys, Take care. We'll see you on the next live. Take care, guys. Peace.
Peace.
Paper gold. You see, black folks are chumps. If America were to tell you to bring all the rocks in this country to her, and she'll give you $1 million for it, you'll do it. And the next day she'll tell you we're using rocks for currencies, chump.